so I know a lot of you are like, oh my gosh, Miss James, I hate factoring. I get it. It is a pretty complicated thing to do. However, luckily I have a marvelous little trick to show you on the calculator. So the first thing you do is go home, new document, and go to add a calculator. Now once you get to add the calculator, you're just going to go to menu, algebra, polynomial tools. I clicked the wrong button, don't follow me. Menu, algebra, polynomial tools, and you're going to go to number 2 where it says real roots of polynomial. And polyroots should pop up. Oh my gosh. Okay, so now we're going to type the equation given to us exactly how it looks. So let's type the equation x squared plus 5x plus 6. After you type your equation, be sure you do this next step, because if you don't, you will mess up. You have to put a comma next to the equation and then put x. That lets the calculator know that we wanted to solve for x. Dun, 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 dun. Then press enter. So these two magical numbers over here, these are what we call our solutions. Those are our roots, our x-intercepts, our zeros. So yes, if you were paying attention in the other videos, if you have to find your zeros, great way to find them. But finding our zeros can also help us to find the factored form. So as many times as Miss James keeps asking you to factor, and you're just like, I don't get it, make sure you get these steps down, because this will save your life. So just to go over what we just did, we did menu, algebra, polynomial tools, and we went to real roots of polynomials. Once we got there, we typed our equation exactly how it looked, exactly how it was given to us, and then we put comma x next to it. That tells the calculator that we're solving for x, and you hit enter. And these two lovely numbers pop up. These two numbers are our solutions. Those are our x-intercepts, our zeros, our roots. We're going to use our roots to actually write the factored form. So take a look. We're going to take one of these numbers, just one of them first, and we're going to set that number equal to x. So let's say we have -3 equal to x. Okay? Now what you're going to try to do, and I know I'm going to press enter and a bunch of stuff is going to pop up, but I just want to show you. What you're going to do is you're going to take this -3 equal to x, and we want to actually make it to where one side says 0, where one side is equal to 0. So to make this side equal to 0, which I usually like it to be the left side, it doesn't matter which one, but to make one side equal to 0, I'm going to move this -3 to the other side. And by moving it to the other side, it's going to go from -3 to a +3. So it's going to look like this. 0 is equal to x plus 3. So this here, this is our actual factored form. And we would do the same thing with the other number that we had. We also had a -2. So we would do the same thing with the -2. We would set -2 equal to x. Then we would make one side of our equation equal to 0. So I'm going to set this left side of my equation equal to 0 by moving -2 to the other side. When I move it to the other side, it becomes a positive. So you end up with x equals x plus 2. So our two factors for the problem would look like this. X plus 3 times x minus 3. Times x plus, I just said this wrong thing all over. X plus 3 times x plus 2. That's the factored form. And if you notice, it is pretty much just the opposite of what the solution is. Because if we were to go backwards and solve this out, set both of these equal to 0 and then solve for x, your solution will come out to be x equals 3, -3, and x equals -2. So now, let's do another example. Menu, algebra, polynomial tools, real roots of polynomials. This time we're going to do example 4x squared. I said tools, so weird, I just noticed that. But it's 4x squared minus 12x plus 7. And remember to put comma x at the end to let the calculator know you're solving for x. Just press enter. For some reason it's giving me decimals. Usually it gives me a fraction. I'm going to try that one more time just to see if it'll work as a fraction. 4x squared minus 12x plus 7, comma, x. Okay? Doesn't give it to me as a fraction, even though it should. Let me just double check something. Well, doesn't want to give it to me as a fraction. However, I can still take this number and turn it into a fraction, and that's actually what I'm going to do. I'm going to take the 0.79, and I'm going to turn that into a fraction. As soon as my computer stops freezing, like I said, usually it gives it to you as a fraction. I'm not sure why it's not giving it to me now as a fraction, but that's okay. As soon as my computer decides it wants to work, there we go. I'm going to take the number and I'm going to convert that to a fraction. So menu, number, convert to a fraction. And remember, right here, I'm going to take off this part where it says 0.e minus 14. That just means it's going to give you, and even when you're converting to a decimal, take that off. It's going to give you a whole lot of decimals, or it's going to give you a really big fraction, and that's not what we need. So if we approximate that to a fraction, it is 4/5. And I'm going to go ahead and take the other number and turn it into a fraction as well. Yes, you can copy on your calculator. Just highlight it, hit the yellow control button, and then press the V at the same time, just like if you were on a computer. Clearly, copying makes my computer freeze, though. Okay. Okay. I didn't want the whole thing, so let's just say 2.020711. And I'm going to do menu, number. I'm going to convert this one to a fraction as well. And remember, I'm going to take this piece off because I don't want a big fraction. Still give me a pretty ugly fraction. Okay, so these will be our solutions. These will be our roots. What you would have to do is to take this fraction, 4/5, and you still have to set it equal to 0. So I'm going to take that fraction, 4/5, and I'm going to set it equal to, not equal to 0, equal to x, excuse me. So now, in order to solve for x, and don't worry about this right side, I know it says something crazy, but I'm just showing you the steps. In order to solve for x here, in order to get this side equal to 0, I need to move this 4/5 to be on the other side. So the first thing, if I'm dividing by 5, the opposite is going to be to multiply both sides by 5. So when you multiply both sides by 5, you get 4 equals 5x. Because that 5 is going to cancel on this side, and 5 times x is 5x. Now to get this side to equal to 0, I have to get rid of the 4. It is a positive 4, so the opposite of a positive 4 is a minus 4. So I would subtract on both sides. So I will end up with 0 is equal to 5x minus 4. So this part here, this 5x minus 4, that would actually be my factor, 5x minus 4. That is actually the factor, and I can double check that by setting it equal to 0 and solving for x, by going the other way. So if I wanted to solve for x here, first I have to get rid of that minus 4. And to get rid of a minus 4, you do plus 4 on both sides, so you will end up with 5x is equal to 4. And once you have 5x equal to 4, to get x by itself, you have to divide by 5. So then you would end up with x equals 4/5. Okay, so that is the actual fraction that we began with. So that's our actual factor. I had it right here. 5x minus 4. So just by finding the actual roots of our equation, just by figuring out what the solution is, we were able to work backwards and use that to write the factors. So here, we were able to figure out, okay, if my solution is -3, that means that my factor has to look like x plus 3 in parentheses. If my solution is -2, my factor has to look like x plus 2 in my parentheses. And remember, all you did was set this number equal to x. Once you set it equal to x, you just you solve for 0 on one side. You solve for 0. That's not what I wanted to say. You get 0 on the other side, I guess is how you would say it. But we solve for x here, so x was equal to -3. And we want to move this -3 to be on the other side to get 0 on one side, so we got x plus 3. So that's our actual factor. So just remember that once you find your solution, you still have to set that equal to x and make one side of your equation equal to 0, and that's your actual factor. Don't worry, we'll practice some more, but this is a great shortcut to factoring.